Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled, "My son wants a go in your electronic wheelchair. Get out so he can have a go." I've been browsing this sub for a while and never thought I would post on here. Oh, how I was wrong. Backstory. I'm a 29-year-old female and have been confined to a wheelchair since I was 17. I'm a quadriplegic and can use a manual wheelchair at home but use a power wheelchair in public for practical reasons. I have mostly full use of my upper body and partial use of my lower body. I've been mistaken for a paraplegic a few times. This happened about a month ago before the crap hit the fan with COVID-19 in my town. I was downtown shopping for supplies for my inevitable self-isolation when I heard a deafening squeal of a child, about 12. Entitled Kid. "Oh, that's a cool scooter. How fast does it go?" Me. "Thanks, little man. Yeah, it goes pretty fast. EK. Can I have a go?" Me. Thinking he meant to sit on my lap, and I drive him around, which in any other scenario I would have been happy to do, COVID-19 and all. Sorry dude, but not today. The kid says, "Ah. Okay," and stomps away, and I thought that was the end of it, but you know I wouldn't be here if it was. A few minutes later I hear the ground start to tremble as the Megatron Karen approaches. Oh boy, I thought. This is going to be fun. Entitled Parent. "Excuse me. What did you say to my son?" Me. Confused. "Ah. He wanted a ride in my wheelchair." I said no. EP. "What did you just say to me? You need to respect your elders and not talk down to my poor little angel. You don't even need that wheelchair. I know your legs work. You're just faking it to get attention. Now let my son have a ride." She wouldn't have been much older than 35, so obviously not my elder. But even if my nan spoke to me like that, I wouldn't reply kindly. Me. "All of my patience officially gone. My wheelchair cost more than your car and you want me to miraculously heal out of my chair so your dirty crotch goblin can take a joyride? Okay, edit. Crotch goblin was smirking at me the entire time. Here's where the story gets graphic. I have hypermobility, which makes my joints extremely flexible and dislocation easy and relatively painless. I also have titanium screws inside my neck that creak loudly when I move a certain way. Bring on the Frankenstein. I leaned forward, pushed down with my right arm, dislocating my shoulder blade with a loud pop, as I twisted my neck to make it creak, then pushed down with my left hand to contort my arm and hand in an unnatural position. This all happened in a few seconds, but it was enough to make Karen, red-faced and horrified, scream out, "Stop. It's okay, EK, let's go," and they hurried out of the store. I could hear laughter coming from behind me as a friend who works there walked up to me and said, "That was mean." He knew me well and had seen me pull that trick before. Needless to say, I never had an issue like that again. It's a small town and news travels fast. Don't mess with the girl in the wheelchair. Edit. For those insisting I must be a troll because I don't know the difference between a quadriplegic and a paraplegic, look up incomplete quadriplegic. And one of my stories about when I worked at Target. I was 16 at the time of that story. My injury happened when I was 17. Update. Karen demands I get out of my wheelchair. A follow-on to, "My son wants a ride in your electronic wheelchair. Get out so he can have a go." Megatron Karen returns. One of my first posts on here was about a Karen demanding I get out of my power wheelchair to let her son have a go, and then freaking out when I said no. I'd only had one other encounter with her since that happened, which I hoped would have been my last. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Megatron Karen strikes again. I'm AC4-5 incomplete quadriplegic, and although I have use of my upper body, I still rely on my power wheelchair to get me around town. I recently received a new power wheelchair and I'm still getting used to using it. And although it looks slightly different than my old one, it's still a Karen magnet. This happened a few days ago when I was downtown doing some shopping. As I was leaving the mall, I saw Karen and her son, 12-year-old, walking in. I wanted to turn and go the other way, but she'd already seen me. In hindsight, I should have stayed in the mall and waited for her to lose sight of me, but in that moment, I just wanted to get as far away from her as possible. So, I exited the mall, hoping that Karen wouldn't follow me, but you know I wouldn't be telling this story if that were the end of it. There's a discount clothing shop just outside of the mall which I'd planned to go to, so that's where I went. I was in there for a few minutes when I got the feeling that someone was watching me, so I turned to see Karen and her son near the entrance and Karen glaring at me. When I looked at her, she immediately looked away, pretending that she was shopping. I headed to the plus-size section, hoping that she'd lose sight of her, but in retrospect, that was a bad idea. I call her Megatron Karen for a reason. When I got to the plus-size section, I naively thought I was safe, but oh no, dear readers. It had only just begun. I started looking through the selection on the racks, when not long after, I got that same feeling that I was being watched. I looked around and saw Karen at the end of the aisle, looking at me, but when she saw me see her, she looked away. Then came a strange game of cat and mouse. I went to another aisle, and she followed me. I went back the other way, and she followed me. To avoid causing a scene, I left the store, hoping to outrun her. Unfortunately, though, I was not that lucky. As I left the store and was going down the block, I got that same feeling as before, so I turned around, and wouldn't ya know it? There she was. Me. What the crap is wrong with you, lady? Why are you following me? Karen. Excuse me? I'm not following you. Me. Okay then. Going in the opposite direction to call her bluff. Guess what? The lunatic followed me. I could hear her coming up close behind me, so I stopped short, causing her to run straight into the back of my power chair. The sounds that followed were very satisfying, as she hit her knee hard into the bar that's at the back of my chair, hit her belly directly into a hook that's near the top where a headrest can be placed, and almost fell ass over tit in an attempt to correct her balance. Karen. What is wrong with you? You could have killed me. Me. That wouldn't have happened if you weren't following me. Now, what do you want? Karen. After muttering incoherent slurs in anger and pain from getting front-ended by the back of my chair. You insolent little. Get out of that wheelchair now. Before I call the police on you for assault. Me. Really, lady? How about you take a look above your head? Pointing to the CCTV camera directly outside the store that I stopped in front of. That will show you following me, as will the one inside the store we were in before, and the mall you followed me out of. Please Karen, call the police. I dare you. Me. Better yet, how about I call the police and press charges on you for harassment? Through this entire encounter, her son was trailing behind her with his tail between his legs with a look of embarrassment and shame on his face for what his mother was doing. Me. Getting out my phone to take a picture of her face. This picture is time-stamped with my location. If I ever see you again, you will leave me the heck alone, or I will show this to the police, who will be more than happy to review the cameras. Karen just stared at me like a deer caught in the headlights, with her mouth doing a brilliant goldfish impression. I left to continue my shopping. I haven't seen her since then, but I hope she took my threat seriously. I didn't want to take things further because that would probably get docs involved, Australians' version of CPS. But if anything else happens, I'll be sure to post it. The next story is titled, HOA Sell Non-HOA House. So, I'll start by saying this happened to a friend of mine a few years ago, so I don't know all of the details. I'll spare the boring details, but we lived in a small rural farming community that has been growing quite rapidly lately. A lot of farmers are growing old and selling their farmland. There are two ways to do this. They can either split it into lots and sell a piece at a time. This typically brings in more money but is a much slower process. Then they can sell the whole thing at once. Again, faster process, less money. This particular farmer decided to sell his land in lots because it was in a developing neighborhood, and he could make a much larger profit doing it that way. My friend bought a few lots and built a very nice house on it. Then a large company came in and bought most of all of the remaining lots and built a subdivision on the land. In order to keep everything in a consistent look, they themed the properties after my friend's place. His was a lot nicer, obviously, he didn't cheap out on it like they did, but they had a similar style to his. He didn't mind because that just raised his property value even more. Not it is important to note that my friend basically lived right in the center of the subdivision. He bought a place in the middle of the property because of its view. Probably not the best idea in retrospect. Multiple occasions, but always refused for obvious reasons. Because of some legal clauses about pre-existing properties, he wasn't required to join even though he was in the center of the subdivision. He did maintain a pretty good relationship with the HOA president and some of the member of the community as well. The people who built the subdivision also founded an HOA. My friend was invited to join on. He was regularly invited to HOA events and sometimes actually took them up on the offer. He enjoyed it. Then a new president took over the HOA. I guess the new president didn't really do any research because he just assumed that my friend was part of the HOA. He contacted my friend about several violations that he noticed along with late fees due to the HOA. When my friend tried to explain that he wasn't part of the HOA, the new president just showed him off and ignored him. My friend obviously just ignored all of the fees, fines, etc. Now my friend was a winter bird. For anyone who doesn't know what that means, it's a fancy way of saying someone that lives in the south during the winter and in the north during the summer. They typically own 2 houses, or sometimes they're retired and just jump around between family members that are happy to take care of them for that time. My friend in particular was a doctor who worked for a hospital here in the summer months and a hospital in the south in the winter months. So, it all worked out. So, saying this, you could probably imagine the horror on his face when he came home and found all of his locks changed and another family living in his house. The HOA president knew that he traveled south every year, so waited until he was gone, then sent an eviction notice for all of his late. He had a friend of his that owned a realty firm sell the house and moved in a new family all while my friend was gone. My friend contacted a lawyer friend of his from back in the south and started the process of suing the HOA. Big city lawyer versus small town HOA, who is absolutely in the wrong. Guess who won? Oh, did I mention that the family that moved into my friend's house joined in as well? They also sued the HOA because they had to be relocated on short notice and they had taken out a very hefty loan for that property. I don't know exactly what happened, but I know that the HOA president lost his house and skipped town. I'm guessing he probably took the brunt of the attack. The last story is titled, "My sister called me demanding I take my posts down." Now she's more upset than ever to know how far it spread. Having a family that knows about your Reddit account has its disadvantages. Yesterday my sister called me after I got off work to ask me if comments are still coming in. She said she cannot bear the negativity of looking at them herself because the comments are all so hurtful towards her. So, I was brutally honest. At least 10 comments are still coming in daily, and most of them more or less say the same things about her. She started crying and demanding I delete my Reddit posts. But I refused and told her she can cry to anyone she wants. But the posts stay up because they are my assurance she won't try to treat me like crap anymore. After all, she literally felt like my life should revolve around hers, didn't pay me the babysitting money she was supposed to and pocketed it for herself, and forced me to be the constant babysitter on last year's family vacation, so I had pretty much no fun the entire time. Is it really any wonder people are having so much hate for her when she treated me like that? Then when I mentioned the posts have already spread to other websites because I was asked a couple of times to let an article be made about my situation. And there are some videos that were read as well. My sister shrieked hearing that and hung up. My parents then called me begging I take the posts down. I've refused and stated that I only did this because they didn't stick up for me. This would have never happened if they'd told my sister to treat me like an equal and not a servant. I'm not her butler, babysitter, or handyman. I'm her freaking brother, and a grown-ass man. Wouldn't they be tired of this crap in my shoes too? They agreed, but still begged I take the posts down. I refused and said that I'll keep making more if they don't start sticking up for me more when my sister comes crying to them. Let her clean up her own messes. Because all the enabling of her led to this. I didn't father those kids. I've got a life of my own, a career I'm still new to, and hopefully soon enough a girlfriend as there's someone I want to ask out. I'm moving my life forward, and I won't be held back. They can either step out of my way or keep trying to enable my sister. But I assured them that the latter would end badly for them. The only way this posting on Reddit will stop is if the drama stops. I've kept things anonymous, and I've got a right to vent my very valid frustrations. Well, that left my mother crying, my father just went silent, and I said, tears don't move me. They know what it'll take to end this, and that's to stop enabling my sister. Well, my sister called me again to yell at me that our parents have told her they aren't dealing with this anymore, and to figure it out herself. Oh, and they told her to be nicer to me too. I just pictured her eye twitching as she internally screamed after hearing that. Be nice to my kid brother? What is this? Do I look it up on Google? Yeah, I was that sarcastic to her. But it left her crying too when I hung up. My brother-in-law called me later to get my side of the story. He was mad I'm still posting and made his wife cry. But I explained everything to him, and he said he'd have another talk with my sister. I'm hoping this drama finally ends here. But the family vacation is still on for late June. I've already booked my room and put in for a day off work so we can all leave on a Friday. My room is also not near the ones my parents, sister, Bill and nephews will be using. In fact, it's not even on the same floor. And when we go to the coast, when it's not a family activity, I'm going to go where I want and do what I want. And you can bet I'm gonna tour those art galleries, pig out on local food, and just enjoy being carefree for a change. Thank you for listening.